Welcome to The Village Lantern, a podcast for families living with hidden challenges such as autism and other neurodiverse conditions, and for anyone else wanting to understand, love and support. Our mission is to build understanding, empathy and love for families living with one or more children who have hidden conditions that make life harder in one way or another. We call this extra zing.
We're talking about kind of space, physical space, but actually probably what you're trying to articulate is brain space. What do you choose to put into that brain pocket in your head? We haven't got much space in our heads at this point when you're filled with what do they need, what therapies have they got, what's the appointments, all this stuff. And then you go, right, there's a tiny bit left for me. And it's like, what do I use that bit for? And you're like, I've got so much other things going on. And actually some of those things are life and death. And some of those things need me so badly. When we say we want to simplify our lives, we're trying to make space in our brains for the things we need to do.
In the spirit of reconciliation, Takes a Village acknowledges the traditional custodians of country here on the lands of the Boon Wurrung and Wurundjeri Woi Wurrung peoples of the Eastern Kulin Nation, as well as throughout Australia, and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respects to their elders, past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. Oh, we're back. We had a very good conversation last time. We wanted to carry it on.
We've got lots more.
Yes. We started talking about school, and Belle, thank you for playing a generous role of interviewing
ask questions.
me
I love
in
asking
particular.
questions.
Yeah. Well, there's so much been going on, and I think last time we spoke about we're at a place right now where we don't have a school option for our daughter, but she is desperate to get to school, and we are desperate for her to get to school.
And I think your experience, like me asking you specific questions, like tell me about that and what does that mean, is a lot of people will be going through this at the moment with children in grade 4, 5, 6 and thinking, where do I go? What do I do in year 7?
And it's true. I mean, I think that's what I said last time. This is by no means my story or our story. This is the story, as you said last time, Belle, that must be happening everywhere. And I must say, I feel very distressed about the amount of families going through what we're going through. I really do think about that a lot.
Yeah, there's a whole other topic which is linked to this, which is when you've got two parents and one doesn't agree on the school choice or doesn't agree what the child needs. You know, that is, I keep seeing that a lot in all the support groups. You know, my husband doesn't understand autism or PDA, autistic children. You know, he doesn't get it. So what do I do? How am I going to convince him that this is the right school or this is the right setting or this is the right therapy? Or, I mean, that must be so difficult.
I mean, I think that happens. The strain on marriages or relationships is like exponential. Because of all of those things. If you have a child
with a disability.
Because it's not just, I mean, yes, absolutely the school decision, but it's also how do we
approach
discipline? How do we communicate? What sort of like changes to our life do we make? Because it's starting to be very clear to me. I think that's the other thing that's going on for me at the moment is really thinking deeply about what sort of life do we really need to live to make this work? You know, and to the point where I'm literally every couple of weeks Googling houses in the country, you know.
With more space.
Less pressure, you know.
Less pressure. I cannot, tell you how taking some pressure off our family has completely changed the dynamic, and then getting back into school and family, the logistics and whatever, all the challenging behaviours have just come.
Oh, because I was going to say, is there any... So you've been away for a little bit, Belle. You've taken family and you've had time.
So no school.
Breaking up
amazing.
That, like... For almost a term, not a term,
a
whole term. And I know this has been your dream for a very long time, so it's amazing that you got to do it. But I would really like to talk about that as well. What changed so much? And is it simply taking the pressure, the demands, or is it also having that time to be connected, to understand each other, to be able to see triggers a bit more? Is it all
I think it's everything. But I think I learnt so much about each of them. Like, during COVID, we learnt so much about our kids. Sometimes they were things we didn't want to learn, but we did. And so we learnt so much about all of their strengths, and then all of their challenges really came into light because we were spending all that time together. But I think for two of them, not having the school environment was amazing and not having the social pressures.
Yes.
To not have that constant kind of feeling like navigating friendships was really hard and particularly when you're a teenager.
And
really masking. Yeah, but the middle child, I think because he's ADHD, he actually likes the structure.
Oh, because I was going to say
he gets anxiety around.
Yes.
He likes to know.
Days.
Yes, open-ended days.
My youngest is like that.
Yeah, so he likes to know every day, what are we doing, where are we going, what do we do? And if it didn't go to schedule, the train was late, he actually struggled with that more than the other two.
Yes, but you're very organised. So did you find it? So the idea of someone saying to me every day, where are we going? What do we do? That makes me panic. But did you find that okay? Because you had...
I had it already planned. Not the activities in the day.
But enough that you could give him enough information to feel...
Yeah. And so the eldest and the middle wanted to know ahead of time everything, but the little one did not. That made them anxious.
Too much, yeah.
Yeah, so it was like different stuff. So they all had all different neurotypical challenges. Every day was different. So one was like a hyper vigilant, like wouldn't sleep the day before we were traveling, would get up early, would pack the suitcase and would be like pacing up and down about we need to go and shouting at us all that we're going to be late for the train, which was a lot.
Yeah.
And then the eldest one would be still asleep and say that they've packed and then we'd go and look and there would be just shit everywhere. So it was kind of navigating all of that, and then the middle one would just pack for themselves but not help anyone.
Yeah, that's still something.
Yeah, no, it was great. But like we were like, can you just do something?
Yeah.
So there was all those little...
And did that get better as you got into the rhythm, or was it...
No, we got better accepting it.
Yes, right.
So we'd pack for the eldest the day before.
Yes.
And then we'd not wake up the hypervigilant one.
Start to work out
until the end.
See, that's the genius.
Yeah, because we had the space because we were relaxed to do
this
that.
Is it. You're not just them away from all their structures and pressures. You guys were too.
Yeah. And you had both of your hands on deck.
Both hands on deck.
And
no
we have
work
full
pressures.
autistic meltdowns every travel day, but we then know that, okay, there's going to be the meltdown today. So we get the headphones and we get the, whatever, and then we wouldn't do anything when we arrived.
Yes.
So then would give our autistic child a chance to just decompress.
Yeah.
And so we'd go out and go to the supermarket and get whatever we needed to, and they would just be in the Airbnb just listening to music, headphones on, shut down, and then we'd maybe have dinner.
Yep.
So that would be like you can't do anything on a travel day because there'd be a full...
We had that. We just had 10 days away and we were very anxious about what was going to happen because we had such a rough time in the lead up to that. And it was the same. I think my husband and I were talking about how every time you do something like that, you do get a bit better at understanding. And then you look back on your previous things and you think, can you believe we tried to whatever? And so in our case, we had 10 days, probably the first 3 days, our daughter stayed in bed almost all day.
She needed that, exhausted. And also we didn't have any pressure. I'm pretty proud of us of being happy to accept that, we were all exhausted and broken and we could have said, we need to get outside, we need to go and do things, we need to make We had a lot of sleeping. A lot.
But so did I. I slept so much. I came back and I couldn't actually believe how different I felt in terms of being able to do day-to-day things. Oh, Shara, I feel...
So talk to me about sleep.
Shara, as I talk about sleep.
Oh, my God, I just looked at you. We slept a lot.
It's like rubbing it in.
I can't.
God, that's like porn to me.
Yeah.
I know.
Tell me about your sleep.
Oh, my God, I can't because it's so big.
Yeah,
but I think in some ways the value of hearing that is that you should be validated in knowing how bad it is not, how much you're suffering. It's really real, but it will change. So, but getting it out of the rat race and
for most of us was good. Yeah. I think it is really
true. And that's the other thing, right? So when I think about how could we simplify things, it's actually probably worthwhile actually thinking about that in a bit more detail. Like what would that look like?
Yeah.
Because you can sort of shine it up to be this story. But even if it was, let's say for argument's sake, you could live in the country, there was some school nearby that was really suitable. Already that's, an ask, but that there was no rush. So no rush to get there and that somehow it worked for the child. But that they could come home and like run around and feed the pigs and gather the eggs and build a fence. I don't know. I mean,
or they just stay inside gaming and you'd be like, we built a country house for you.
No.
There's eggs
Go and feed the pigs.
But maybe then at least we could collect.
No, totally.
No,
sorry.
Don't say so. That's the whole thing about it, right? Is that
yes, it's you.
I also think that if that was the utopia, not even utopia, a realistic option, is that schools need to start at 11. Say we never booked any train or anything except for like 2 times when we had no choice and it was hell and we knew that it was going to be the worst travel days. We didn't book anything till about 11.
But what about you only went to school 3 days a week?
Yeah.
That's the other one, right?
Yeah.
But I think the other thing that I'm also getting to is, and this is not a sort of remarkable thing to say by any means, is that school right now as it is, and if we just accept that in our lives, it's not going to change enough, that it's just not going to shift. We just have to get them through, whatever that looks like.
Yeah.
But the thing, and I've said that to myself, but now I'm in this place where I'm like, what does that even mean? Because if there's nowhere for her to go.
What do I do? What does that look like?
And, you know.
What does it look like?
But also it's not just getting her through, it's getting you guys through as a family. Because to be honest, I think when you're talking about this rat race thing, it's actually the parents. This is why you're trying to change your whole life.
Yes, that's right.
If you're in a place where you don't have to work 12-hour days, you don't have to work 5 days a week, sometimes 7 days a week, just to like pay bills or like do all the things you need to pay for, you know. If you don't have that kind of lifestyle, then you can be there for your child. You can have the energy to be like, let's do some research about what's best. You can sit through some therapy sessions and learn about them. You can sit quietly and calmly and wait for things to happen more, which is such a luxury.
Yes.
And this is the problem. We live in this crazy, fast-paced.
Yeah.
I mean, I do think this is why I moved to Melbourne, because it's definitely not as fast and crazy as London.
Yeah.
And there's the rat race here is totally different.
Yeah.
Yes, it still goes on, but it's a whole different vibe. It's much slower. Everything's a lot easier in terms of day-to-day. Just getting places, parking, being able to go to the supermarket. You know, things are just made easier for you. But it's not enough for us at the moment. We've now done that. Yeah. Now we're both looking at each other going, okay, jobs, what's next? We can't work how we were working and survive.
And that's the thing, I think, you get a little bit of insight into that when you have a break. Yeah. And when you see what life...
coming back to our life, even though, as you say, it's not like living in London, but the logistics, the appointments, the therapy, and you know that I, usually am quite organised. I couldn't deal with it.
I was like, it makes you see the truth of the situation, right? When you get enough space,
my
you
brain
can
was
actually
just
see it. And I think that's been happening for me slowly over time. Is just, especially because now I'm, you guys know I'm sober. All the things that have changed for me in terms of how I can really reflect on my life in a really deep way, and I'm becoming more spiritual every day. So all of that is changing the way that I can see things. Yeah, and I think. And this, again, we all know that humans have created this life for ourselves that is not natural. It's not how we're meant to be. So, that in mind. But to try and think about how you would change that while you're trying to meet the needs of all your different kids. Yeah. So my eldest is going to year 11 next year, God willing. I mean, it's not going very well at the moment. He's got a whole lot of hard things. Yeah. But I can't pick him up and take him to the country.
No, I know. I was just thinking that. Because I was like, you've got to do it. I was about to say, you've got to do it. It'll be great. And then I'm like, your eldest can't.
I can't do that to him.
But you know what it might
he'll
be?
Finished soon.
I know. And I think
it happens fast.
We could, that's why I've kind of got this 2-year sort of horizon, because the youngest, there's a couple of schools out there that are like really designed for kids who want to run around outside.
Yeah, Woodley.
Yes.
Yeah. So could he cope with Woodley though?
I think so.
Because he loves a bit of structure, your little one.
But he also is so hyperactive. Yeah. He's so hyperactive. And he's really, we're having...
My son would love Woodley. His best friend went to Woodley, but then they left and came back to
He can't sit
Brunswick.
still. No, and he can't really, he struggles in the classroom. Yeah. He struggles. So I think he would. And so,
There's a thing though that I think, we're talking about kind of space, physical space, more space to run, more bigger houses to accommodate our children, and they can be in different pockets of it.
Yes.
But actually, there's probably what you're trying to articulate is brain space as well for us. Yeah. And it's like, what do you choose to put into that brain pocket in your head? We haven't got much space in our heads at this point. When you're filled with, children with additional needs, you are thinking up, what do they need? What therapies have they got? What's the appointments? Balancing NDIS funding and all this stuff. And then you go, right, there's a tiny bit left for me. Yeah. And then there's a tiny pocket left maybe to make some money. Yeah. And it's like, what do I use that bit for? And if you're in a job that you're like, they use a lot of your brain space. So you have to, especially my husband and I in advertising, you have to problem solve constantly. Here's a problem, can you come up with something brilliant and funny and genius and it's great and here's the budget and you've got to balance that. And you're like, I've got
nothing left.
So much other things going on.
Yeah.
And actually some of those things are life and death, and some of those things are really important.
Yeah.
And some of those things need me so badly. So I think this is it. When we say we want to simplify our lives, we're trying to make space in our brains for the things we need to do to make us healthy. So you're going, you've made space for spirituality. I mean, I did notice the joss stick as we walked in. It's all getting a bit more zen in here. But I think, you've never had time to
to tap into that.
Tap into it, or even have the calm around you to even think straight.
Well, I think it's as well, if you think about, like if I think about my last 10 years, 10 years ago, my husband and I were both working in really big corporate jobs that was really demanding, but we were earning a lot of money and we were living that. We were in it, and we got a big mortgage. We were taking holidays. The things that you do when you work a lot to try to.
And there was joy in that.
There was joy in that. There was satisfaction and there were good things about it. But to unwind those things. And so we're sort of halfway unwound now in that we've changed our jobs. We've really changed our financial situation. Yeah. I mean, it still doesn't give us freedom. So that's kind of the next thing. But I think as you unwind each of those things, then you can see the next thing more clearly. Yeah. And that's, I think...
And it's a process.
It's a process. Yeah. And then you still have to work within all the unknowns of what's ahead and what the needs as they change. And I do think that, I think you said this last episode, Char, one of the things that I have genuinely been able to get to is a place where I can sit in the unknown without a whole lot of distress. Yeah. So in the situation that we're in right now, I don't know what the schooling situation is for my daughter. I really don't. But in the past, that would have consumed me. I've been
anxiety, just
stressed about it and actively trying to try and find the answer.
So, but what has helped you get to that point? Is that the not drinking? Is that these decisions? Like how can you sit in that grey?
That is through. It was triggered by becoming sober. Because I became sober through the AA program, which I still
amazing.
attend. But in there, you learn life skills. And one of the first things that you have to do is to surrender. And for me, for someone like me who has spent my whole life desperately trying to be in control and not even knowing that was a choice. I had this belief that there was so many things that I had to do and it was on me and I had to bust a gut. And I got some good outcomes. So I had some good data that said if you do that, it works.
Achieving.
Achieving. Yeah. And I think I've said this, through the gift of having a child who cannot be solved, so to speak, that there are these unknowns. I have had to learn that. And I do think that is partly why my drinking got really bad, because I couldn't cope with that. It was very hard for me to accept that I had these very complex problems that I couldn't fix.
You need to numb it. Not you need to, but that's what we do.
I couldn't
Everyone
resolve
does.
it. And so I didn't know that's what I was doing. When I realized I had to stop drinking, I didn't know that there were going to be all these other things that were going to come from that. But learning, and that is that spiritual awakening of learning that the universe is here for me and it actually is in charge and I have to let go and wait. And you said, I think last time, when you can have space and you can sit and wait and you genuinely know and believe that the answer is going to come somewhere it might be someone that you speak to, it might be something you read. I'm not saying it's like from on high, some kind of prophet comes down. I don't mean that, but I mean genuinely letting go and believing that
things will work out.
It's not like I sit in my room waiting. Like I absolutely still do all the things, but it's with this belief that something will happen. Yeah. And it'll be a version of okay. That has changed everything for me.
I think it's amazing that you were able to have that insight and get that space kind of emotionally and spiritually and whatever, but still in the thick of it.
Yeah.
Because I get that when I, like the last few months not being in Melbourne and removing ourselves from that, I absolutely had all this reflection time. Sometimes when I go and visit my parents, they're in the country. Yes. There's a different landscape. I can feel myself actually sort of reflecting and making some good decisions. Yeah. But it's really hard to do that when you are just still in it.
I know.
With all the appointments and the whiteboards and the phone ringing and everything.
Yeah. Well, I've spent a lot of time to get here, and it's an everyday thing, but I spent 2 years basically holed up. Yeah. On my own, not just coping. Yeah. So it wasn't like I was, everything's fine and, I sorted it out. And I still struggle to fully kind of engage in the world the way I used to. So I have like a lot has changed.
But
and
you shouldn't have. No, you shouldn't have to. But you don't want to. Is what I mean. You're a different person.
Different person.
You are a very different person.
But I think it's a miracle that I have had this awakening. Thank you. I think it's a miracle because I don't think that's what you say. You know that something happens to you inside that you don't really make it happen. You set up the opportunity for it too in terms of like praying. I literally pray every morning. Not to God in the sky. I know it's not that, but I pray, show me the way and help me to kind of
go with the flow.
Live the life the way a greater power wants me to, not the way I want to.
Yeah.
And
that was the greater power.
Yeah, that was
the greater power saying you have to go to family therapy.
But I do think that is why I am so much better than I was.
Yeah.
Despite being in. And, we were in the hospital a lot. We had a lot of ER visits in the last ED visit. What do you call it? Emergency department.
Yeah.
In the last 3-4 months. A lot. And I did have a few tears in those moments, but I did keep thinking, there is no way I could be coping with all of this.
If I wasn't sober.
If I wasn't
hadn't been on that
sober
journey.
and if I hadn't
And also, I mean, there's a part when things get that bad and there's, harming and various other things that you're like, I am the adult here. Far out.
Yeah, it's like
I have to, you go into, whereas then, you go into that mode of like, I have to support this child who is completely distressed and doing awful things to themselves and their body.
Yeah.
But then, because you were strong enough, you didn't then fall in a heap after things got better.
And that's
often what we do. We keep it together.
Yeah.
And then the crisis, the imminent crisis is over.
Yeah.
And then you fall in a heap physically or you start drinking again or you have your own breakdown.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, totally.
And you didn't.
I didn't. I mean, I would stay in bed for a few days. You know what I mean?
Of course. Because the emotional exhaustion.
Yeah. It's true. I think that I'm very, very grateful that I've been able to find this way through because knowing there's many, many challenges ahead.
Well, it's to do with resilience for the future. Yeah. It's like you need to, we can't just patch up anymore. You have to, like, that's what Sunny and I are doing at the moment. It's like when we're speaking to family psychologists and stuff, they're saying we're worried if there's one other problem that gets thrown into your family, it will explode because there's so much knife-edge stuff, And if you add in like a demanding job or a particularly hard week or, 5 days no sleep, which has happened before, like literally no sleep at all, then we could so easily unravel.
Yeah. Which is why if you were living in the country, right? When you get back to that point of...
Can I come and live with you?
Let's totally
have this commune we're going to start.
I'm fully supportive of that. We just got to get your eldest through high school.
Yeah.
But I think that's a brilliant.
Mind you, that part of the world where that great school is, not cheap.
Oh, no, it's the most expensive. It's the wealthiest LGA in the whole of the state. Do you know that?
Yeah. So that maybe it's not that location, right? But actually, you still want to be close to a town. You still want to be close to a train station. Not cheap. So... anyway, but I think let's put the money aside for a minute. I do think lifestyle-wise that does feel like it's got to be, I don't know, who knows, but it feels like,
So this conversation diverted into a slightly different one. We thought we were going to talk about education.
Well, we still can. There's plenty more to do.
Yeah.
And
so much to say.
It's so nice to be back.
But it's really good to, I think the most important thing about the last 2 episodes is to actually hear that Anna's journey, because so many parents are about to go through this.
Yeah.
Because girls were diagnosed a lot later. So as you said, it's often in high school where things get really difficult.
I've actually invited the CEO of Yellow Ladybugs to come and chat. So she's on leave at the moment, I think, but according to her office, she'd be keen to do that.
Love that.
We can bring her in and see what she can teach us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
And we've got some other ideas about other guests we want to bring in.
Yes,
so
definitely.
Looking forward to next time we come together. So nice to see you both.
Thanks, Anne. Thanks,
Godspeed with your sleep.
Oh my gosh.
Come on.
Come on.
Come on.
She can sleep. She can do it.
Yeah, she can.
We won't talk about sleep anymore.
No, we promise.
That was a bit mean.
Yeah.
See ya.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. Love you both.
Bye. Bye.